Go. Hello and welcome to the International Association of Hyperpolyglots HYPIA channel. I am the president of HYPIA, Dr. Usman Chohan, and with me I have two wonderful people to discuss aspects of AI and education as they relate to languages. So I am pleased to invite Ewa Duerr. She's HYPIA's advisor on AI and a HYPIA member. And we are both happy to welcome Rajen Sheth, who is the CEO and founder of Kyron Learning, to share his wisdom with us. And with that, I turn it over to you, Ewa. It's all yours.
Thank you. If you can flag the other slides as well, that would be super helpful. Thank you very much for that. Yet another session on HYPIA on how AI can foster the learning of languages, and not only learning of languages as a tool of broader understanding of different cultures, nations, and regions. And I will start by saying that AI is talked about replacing the need for languages. And in fact, I'm a strong believer that the opposite is true, that the AI will foster that learning. And just to quote McKinsey, one of the biggest advisory firms that does a lot of research on the impact of AI on multiple areas of our life, including the learning, they said that individuals learning powered by AI will improve the student engagement by 60% and educational results by 30%. So just to parse it in simple language, it means that we could get 30% smarter and have 60% more fun while learning. So that's the nutshell of it. So how is this actually possible? So Usman, if you go to the next slide. So there are a couple of areas that we believe AI can foster that learning. So first of all is personalized learning. And to just give you a little bit of a personal story, when I was at school 20, 30 years ago, the teachers were typically using the one-size-fits-all learning method. So I was really, really good in music and violin and math. But I was really, really bad in art. Even though I could use my hands for playing the violin, I was really bad when I had to paint something or do a sculpture. So I was taking more time, and the outcome of my work was really ugly compared to all my other students in the class. So I was practically bored in math class, but I was really overwhelmed in art class, right? So that is now changing. There won't be any more one-size-fits-all learning, and Rajen will talk about it, how this is actually possible with AI. And the second aspect is gamification and immersive learning. So AI those days enables us to really create and simulate the training personalized to ourselves. So, and games, I typically learn by even a new language by watching movies or videos or TV and immerse myself. So actually now those days, and I started learning Japanese, I'm simulating my learning with, let's say, any games. I love Shrek, so everything that I'm doing in Japanese, my counterpart is actually Shrek. So this is really creating much more engaging experience for me, rather than trying to watch something that I might not be as passionate about. The third aspect is adaptive content creation and curation. So as well, again, I'm typically relatively fast in learning a new language, speaking. So the speaking is actually the first part I typically learn. But I'm really bad in writing. So the simulation and AI can actually suggest the content that I should be watching or viewing or reading, or making that interactive in writing if I want to improve my writing skills. and curate that content specifically for me. Um, and that was on the interaction on the student side. But AI is also empowering teachers. So my father was actually a teacher of mathematics and physics. So if you imagine, he at school he had a couple of classes of 30 students each. So let's assume these were 4 classes of 30 students, 120 students. Designing an individualized tutoring system for each of them was just mission impossible. But with AI, it actually becomes possible, because instead of spending 3 hours on each of the 120 students, my father can now spend actually 10 minutes, because the tutoring system is being suggested by AI, and my father just has to review is that the right tutoring system for that particular student. So he spends 10 minutes instead of 3 hours on designing that system. I always still encourage, obviously, that there is a what we call in AI space a human in the loop. In that case, a teacher in the loop that reviews that content, and not to mention that AI is helping in predictive assessments, continuous feedback. So as we progress throughout the learning, or whether this is learning language or new immersing ourselves in learning a new culture, this can predict where we are heading and where we'll be in a month or 2 months if we have a certain target. Let's say I'm going to Japan and I truly want to improve my Japanese by that time. And last but not least, again, I cannot imagine my father's hours spent on doing administrative tasks as he was teaching at school. Now a lot of that can be done by AI, and my father could have just spent so much time with the students themselves rather than filling out the forms or documents. That those tasks now are very much assisted by AI. So you can see how many things are impacting our learning outcome, and how that 60% more fun that McKinsey is quoting and 30% smarter or more knowledgeable can actually become true with AI. And on that note, I am so excited to have Rajen today. Rajen is actually my former boss at Google, former VP of Product Management, and passionate about learning as well. So I'm hyper excited to having him here today to talk about Kyron Learning. So, Rajen, just as a start of that conversation, tell us about the mission of Kyron Learning, how you started the company, and what you truly wanted to achieve.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, thank you for having me here, and it's great to talk about this. And I do share that same belief that I think that AI can really help learning in general, and also language learning in particular. A little bit about Kyron Learning. We were started about 2.5 years ago. As Eva, as you mentioned, I was at Google for a long time, but really wanted to leave to start something that was focused on a particular mission around equity in education. How can we give students equitable access to great education, no matter what their upbringing, no matter where they are, no matter what their skill level is. And I think with AI, we have a chance to be able to do that. And I think we've started to see that over the course of the last few years with things like conversational AI, and then of course all that we're seeing with things like ChatGPT and large language models. That the whole basis of what we're doing at Kyron Learning is that we believe that learning works best with conversation. Um, it doesn't work best if you're just sitting in front of a video and listening to a video for a long time, or even sitting in a classroom and just having a teacher lecture for 45 minutes. Learning happens best with conversation, where you can take in a bit of information, you can analyze a question, you can talk about it with the teacher, and you can kind of get to a level of understanding and then react accordingly to that. So what we're doing with Kyron Learning is trying to build a platform for videos that you can talk to. So these are videos that aren't just one way. These are two-way videos that almost simulate what it would be like sitting with the teacher and learning about a concept. Where if I were to sit down with you and you were to teach me about a skill, you'd probably teach me a little bit, ask me a question, and then talk about that question and make sure that I understand that before going on to the next. And that's exactly how we do this with Kyron Learning. The interesting thing with the video is that there is an instructor in the video, and what we've tried to do is make it so that students feel like they are actually working more directly with the teacher, even if they're asynchronous. What this is doing is that it's making it such that students that are a little bit behind are able to actually get the learning that they need in a more personalized way. Students that want to push ahead can do the same thing, or that want to deepen their knowledge. And we're working with a lot of colleges now to make kind of their online programs that were typically more one way, more of a two-way experience.
Yeah, so this is fantastic. This is to my point as well. Can I learn with Shrek something, right? And probably my teacher can be a Shrek. It definitely becomes more engaging. And as well, the simulation, right? The aspect of simulation. Can you talk a little bit about the how that is possible with Kyron Learning in terms of languages, or even in kind of understanding the other culture and language being just part of this?
Yeah.
Is there a country I could visit throughout that video, or and learn about Japan, so to speak? That since I'm now learning Japanese.
Yeah, you could definitely do that, but I actually think that what we're seeing in practice is actually potentially a more powerful way of thinking about language learning. So, one of the biggest problems that we see, especially when you look at schools in under-resourced communities, is that you have a lot of students that are coming in where English is not their first language. They're multilingual learners, and they are bringing in multiple languages that they know, and it's very hard for them because think about if you're learning math and you're in the fourth grade classroom, um, and you don't know English all that well. You want to learn English, but you also want to learn the math, and you want to be able to get to where you need to be. And what ends up happening is so many of them get left behind because they have the math skills, but they don't have the English skills. So a couple of things that we did with Chiron Learning. One is that we made sure that for every course that we have, it's available in multiple languages. And so you can take the course in Spanish, you could take the course in English, and things like that. But we took it two steps beyond that. One step was that we have teachers that could be culturally relevant to that student. And so where we started with Chiron Learning is that teachers, actual real teachers, would go and record these interactive videos. And for example, we had a teacher that came from Guatemala that was a native Spanish speaker, but also brought a lot of the cultural background. And so he was able to not only translate the language, but also put in culturally relevant examples as well as he was doing the teaching. And so that made it so that it's not only just learning the same thing in a different language, but learning something that's culturally relevant to that individual student. The other thing is that what we've been also seeing is that math, like for example, teaching math could be actually a conduit to helping teach people English as well, or teach people a different language as well. And so one of the things that we're trying to do is figure out, how can we help students learn a different language as they're learning a subject like that. We're actually doing a study with the Gates Foundation right now where we're testing the motivation, engagement, and persistence of Chiron Learning with multilingual learners in a variety of districts in the US. And what we're finding is that it's helping multilingual learners quite a bit. One, in the case where they can see a translated lesson, but actually the more important thing is where they may hear a lesson in English, but they can talk back to it in Spanish. And so that way they can actually start to learn the English language a step at a time, even though they're actually talking back in Spanish. And so that kind of helps people kind of go step by step. to not only learn the math, but also learn language as it goes on. And teaching people English is just one example of that. I think you can use this in very creative ways to teach students almost any language, and then start to actually incorporate language into their learning in any subject that they learn.
Wow. So this is really fantastic because it almost feels like dream coming true if I think about myself and the story I shared before. I love math and I love languages, and now I can have both of them together. In the past, I used to go to, let's say, when I remember I was learning Italian, I used to go to the bookstore in Italy and buy the fourth grade math books and say, like, now as if I were 20 years ago, I'm just learning Italian with math. Since I love math, but now I can actually personalize it to myself and have a higher degree math, which is something that I'm interested in those days, like knot theory or a category theory for those people that are very, very into math. I'm a weirdo, so I would love to have that in Spanish or German or Polish or even Japanese, and I'm learning Japanese. So this is fantastic.
Absolutely.
Follow-up question on how do you measure actually success of doing what we are doing with that learning? So how can we kind of align it with the 60% more fun and 30% smarter? How do you measure that?
Yeah, it's actually exactly those kinds of things. And so the two big things that we really look at is one, student engagement. Are students more engaged in this? And what's interesting is that that goes beyond just having fun. Is a student actually willing to engage in the learning? And we're teaching them at a level where we can give them that productive struggle, but something that they can kind of overcome and get to. And so that's what we really focus on a lot in the courses that we put out, is that we want to meet the students at a level where they are and take them incrementally up the chain into kind of deeper and deeper levels of thinking in each Kyron course that they have. But we want to do it where they're actually engaging with this. And so we measure student engagement by statistics like how long is a student actually spending with this? Are they continuing to go from question to question to question? Do they hit the end of this? But we also look at the qualitative stats. They, at the end of every Kyron course, they tell us, did they like the experience? Do they feel like they learned more? And do they want to see more of these in their particular subject? And generally, we see that to be extremely positive. Where we really want to go as well is showing achievement outcomes. And that's more difficult to measure because you have to look at, okay, how much of this do you put into an educational experience such that you're measuring that their achievement is higher? And so, for example, with a lot of the colleges that we're working with, we're looking at everything from, we put in a Kyron course or a course enhancement where they're having kind of this interactive experience. Did they do better on the next assignment that they did, or did they do better on the next test that they did? And ultimately, did they pass the course? And what we're finding is, and what we're hoping to have with this is that more students are able to pass courses because of Chiron than were there before, and as a result of that, be able to move on to kind of the next stage of their learning journey.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And as we want to go get more engaged and kind of smarter and with Chiron, any recommendations you would have for the HYPIA community to for the future as they keep learning? And I'm pretty sure you're gonna get a lot of subscription in the upcoming days from the HYPIA community. But any suggestions you would have on that?
Yeah, well, I think two things. So with Chiron in particular, you can try it out. You can actually go and create a course for yourself, and try it out and see what that experience is like. And basically, to create a course, you just tell us what you want to create, and we create the course for you. We use AI to go and create that course for you, and then you can experience it and you can send it out to other students as well. And so that's one thing. But I think the other thing is to explore kind of the broader horizon of what's available with AI for language learning. There's so many amazing applications that are out there. There are a lot of things like, for example, things like Duolingo that are, of course, very well known. But then there are many new things that are coming out with AI that are making the language learning experience better and better and better. And to your point, Eva, I think that on my side, I've never been good at learning languages, but I think that with a lot of the tools that are out there, it opens that door for people that haven't learned languages before to actually deepen their knowledge of new languages and really be able to embrace multiple languages in a new way.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that's not only to hyperpolyglot community to enhance their learning or learn yet another language, but as well to those people that want to become hyperpolyglots or polyglots, not necessarily hyper. That's a good way to do that, and AI can definitely foster that. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. As I said, I'm pretty sure you're gonna get a lot of subscriptions, and yeah, which is well deserved. And over to you, Usman.
Thank you very much, Eva and Rajan. I really enjoyed learning from both of you. It really opens up perspectives for the HYPIA community, which, as you know, is like almost 500 people who do know this many languages. It's quite extraordinary, and even for them, the possibilities are enormous. There are techno skeptics in HYPIA, and because they have, and to an extent that includes me also, because we have reductionist views of AI based on LLMs and all that. But what you have presented with Kyron Learning is something truly incredible. Why? Because I think what you're talking about really maximizes the joy of learning languages. What do I mean by maximize the joy? The joy is biochemistry. So there's a dopamine factor you put in because of the productive struggle you mentioned and the achievement outcomes, right? So there's that I'm getting that kick out of this, I'm going to get this done. But also there's something unique here. If I imagine this as you are describing it, and of course I'll test it at some point, I hope, but the oxytocin and the serotonin, because I can bond better with this sort of creature than perhaps I could with a real person in to the extent that I could speak however I do, in whatever way I do, and it will respond to that in ways that perhaps human beings would exceedingly rare instances would. You see, I can do it and it responds, I get you, and then moves on with that. And so that is truly extraordinary. And I think the proof would be in the pudding. So, Rajan, I hope you learn enough languages to join the community in due course. I mean, the proof is in the pudding, right?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
So thank you to both of you. And with that, I hope that HYPIA people, as well as those interested in joining in the future, do watch and learn and do test Chiron when they get the occasion. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Cool.
All right.